You think Pinocchio is about a puppet who becomes a real boy. But Carlo Collodi's 1883 original tells a different story. A story where the puppet smashes his own conscience to death with a hammer, where he's hanged by the neck until dead, left swinging from an oak tree as crows pick at his wooden corpse, where children are sold into slavery, worked until their hands bleed, and transformed into donkeys to be beaten in circus rings until they collapse. This isn't a tale about wishing upon a star. It's a coded warning about the child trafficking networks that operated openly in 1880s Italy, where tens of thousands of children disappeared into labor camps, never to return. And Collodi knew, because he watched it happen every single day on the streets where he lived. Let's start with what Disney sold you in 1940. A kindly woodcarver wishes for his puppet to become real. A blue fairy grants partial life. Pinocchio must prove himself brave, truthful, and unselfish. Jiminy Cricket serves as his conscience. He's tempted by a fox and cat, nearly turned into a donkey at Pleasure Island, swallowed by a whale, but saves Geppetto and becomes a real boy. Redemption, second chances, a father's love. Except that's not what Carlo Collodi wrote in 1883. There's no blue fairy at the beginning, only a ghost girl with turquoise hair. There's no Pleasure Island, there's the land of toys, and it's far worse. Jiminy Cricket isn't friendly, he's a lecturer, and Pinocchio kills him. He smashes the cricket with a wooden hammer. The text states, "The talking cricket's life ended there." That's how this children's story begins, with murder. To understand why Collodi wrote this horror story, you have to understand his Italy. Florence, 1881. The streets are crowded, filthy, suffocating. Italian unification happened just 20 years earlier, and the new nation was drowning in poverty and chaos. Children were the primary victims. In textile factories, children as young as 5 worked 12 to 16-hour shifts. Their small hands threaded looms and cleaned machinery while it was still running. Factory owners preferred children because they earned 1/10 of an adult's wage. By 1881, over 20% of Italy's industrial workforce consisted of children under 14. Hundreds of thousands of children. But factories weren't the only danger. The padroni, labor brokers who specialized in child trafficking. They traveled through poor villages offering parents a deal. Give us your child. We'll teach them a trade, feed them, send money home. It was a lie. The padroni were traffickers. They took children as young as 4, transported them to cities, and sold them into forced labor. Street performers, factory workers, servants. In 1873, 8 years before Pinocchio, the newspaper Il Secolo published an exposé. Children chained together, marched through Florence like slaves. Boys forced to perform in the cold, fingers bleeding from playing instruments for hours. Children beaten for failing to bring back enough money. They were called piccoli schiavi, little slaves. If a child tried to escape, they disappeared. Carlo Collodi saw them every day, and he knew no one, not the police, not the church, not the government, was stopping it. So he encoded the truth into a story people would actually read. In Collodi's version, the log Pinocchio is carved from Start's talking, before it's even a puppet. Ouch! You hurt me. The moment Pinocchio is finished, he springs to life. Not innocent, but wild and uncontrollable. He mocks Geppetto, laughs in his face, kicks him, and runs. Geppetto chases him into the street. A crowd gathers and accuses Geppetto of child abuse. Police arrest him and throw him in prison. Think about that. The father is arrested, while the child wanders alone and unprotected. This was real. Desperate families gave children to padroni, and if parents complained, they could be accused of abandonment or abuse. Collodi was showing you the system. The cricket warns Pinocchio. Woe to those boys who revolt against their parents. They will never come to any good, and sooner or later, they will repent bitterly. This is prophecy, a warning about what happens to street children. Pinocchio picks up a hammer and smashes the cricket against the wall. The talking cricket's life ended there. He destroys his own conscience. Every decision after this leads deeper into suffering. Two con artists convince Pinocchio to bury his gold coins in a magical field where they'll grow into a tree of gold. They steal his coins and disappear. They represent the false promises traffickers made. Come with us. We'll make you rich. By the time the child realized it was a lie, it was too late. After being robbed, Pinocchio is chased by assassins hired by the fox and cat. No one will help him. They catch him, tie a noose around his neck, hang him from an oak tree. That's where the story originally ended. Collodi published Pinocchio as a serial, starting July 1881. Chapter 15, October 1881, ended with Pinocchio swaying back and forth in the wind. Final line, and there he remained until he was quite dead. A children's story ending with the protagonist lynched. Public outcry was immediate. Collodi was pressured to revive him, but not before making his point. The hanging referenced real children murdered when they became too much trouble. In 1874, a Naples padrone beat a child to death for trying to escape. The case was dismissed. Collodi was telling you, children were being murdered, and no one cared. Interesting story so far, don't you think? The end will surprise you. Please like and subscribe to the channel if you're enjoying the story. Okay, let's proceed. When Collodi revived the story, he introduced the fairy, the character Disney made into the Blue Fairy. But she's a ghost. Pinocchio begs for help. She says, "In this house, there is no one. We are all dead." She tells him she's dead, then disappears. Later, she reappears, older, testing him. She asks about the coins. Pinocchio lies. His nose grows. This isn't about teaching honesty. It's about surveillance. Children under Padrone were constantly watched. If they lied about money made begging, they were beaten. The growing nose means you can't hide the truth no matter how hard you try. Pinocchio is lured to the land of toys by a boy named Candlewick. No rules, no school, no work. Just fun. After 5 months, Pinocchio wakes with long, furry ears. By day's end, he's transformed into a donkey. Every boy undergoes the same transformation. Then the truth. The land of toys is a trap run by the coachman. His business. Lure boys with promises of freedom, wait for transformation, then sell them. Circuses, farms, worked until they collapse and die. This is literal child trafficking. Padrone lured children with promises of wealth. Once controlled, they were worked like animals. If they resisted, beaten. Too weak, discarded. Pinocchio is sold to a circus, forced to perform while the ringmaster whips him. He injures his leg, no longer useful, so he's sold again, to a man who plans to kill him and use his hide to make a drum. A man buys Pinocchio specifically to skin him for a musical instrument. He ties a rock to Pinocchio's legs and throws him in the ocean to drown. Why did Carlo Collodi write this nightmare? Because he lived it. Carlo Collodi, real name Carlo Lorenzini, was born in Florence in 1826 to poor parents. They couldn't afford to raise him, so they sent him to a seminary at age 10. Collodi grew up in a system designed to control poor children. The priests taught obedience, submission, and fear of authority. As an adult, he became a journalist supporting Italian unification. But after 1861, he watched the new government fail to protect vulnerable children. By 1881, when he began Pinocchio, Collodi was 55. He'd spent decades watching children suffer on Florence's streets. He'd seen the padroni. He'd read the exposés. He'd walked past factories where children were mangled in machinery. No one was doing anything. So Collodi wrote Pinocchio as a warning disguised as a children's story. He knew adults wouldn't read another political essay, but they might read a serial in a children's magazine. If he encoded the truth carefully enough, maybe someone would pay attention. But here's the tragedy. By the time Collodi died in 1890, Pinocchio had become massively popular, but it was being read as a moral tale about obedience. Teachers used it to teach respect for authority. Parents used it to warn about lying. The church preached about sin and redemption. Everyone missed the point. Pinocchio wasn't about obeying your parents. It was about surviving a system designed to destroy you. Carlo Collodi wrote Pinocchio, but the story belongs to the children who lived it. In 1873, an Italian parliamentary commission investigated child labor. One witness was a 9-year-old boy named Giuseppe, who worked in a Turin textile factory. Giuseppe testified that he'd been working since age 6, 5 a.m. to 8 p.m., 6 days a week. His job, crawl under running looms to clean debris. Scars covered his hands and arms from the machinery. His back was permanently bent from crouching for hours. When asked if he went to school, he said no. If he could read, no. What he wanted to be when he grew up, I don't know. I think I'll just keep working here until I die. Giuseppe was 9 years old. The commission documented his testimony, published findings, recommended new laws. Nothing changed. By 1881, when Collodi began Pinocchio, over 350,000 Italian children worked in factories, mines, and fields. Tens of thousands more had been trafficked by padroni. Collodi saw them every day, and he knew most people didn't care. So he wrote Pinocchio. Children lured by false promises, transformed into beasts of burden, worked until they collapse. The hero survives only by fighting back and learning to recognize society's lies. But when Disney adapted it in 1940, they erased everything. The hanging, the trafficking, the slavery, beatings, desperate poverty. They replaced it with a moral about telling the truth. Disney turned a horror story about systemic child abuse into a sing-along about wishing on a star. At the story's end, Pinocchio finally becomes real. The fairy grants his wish. He wakes human. But the puppet version doesn't disappear. It's still there, sitting in the corner, lifeless, empty. Pinocchio looks at his old wooden body. How ridiculous I was when I was a puppet, and how glad I am that I have become a real boy. This seems triumphant. Growth, lessons learned, humanity rewarded. But look closer. That wooden puppet in the corner. That's his trauma. The version beaten, enslaved, transformed into a donkey, nearly drowned, swallowed by a whale. Collodi is telling you, the only way to survive is to leave that version of yourself behind. This is what trauma survivors do. They don't erase their past. They carry it like a wooden shell they've outgrown, but can never fully abandon. The puppet in the corner is every child who didn't survive. Every child trafficked, worked to death, discarded when no longer useful. Pinocchio gets to become real. The rest stayed puppets forever. So why does this matter? Because Pinocchio is still happening. As of 2020, there are an estimated 160 million children worldwide in child labor, 79 million in hazardous work, the kind that maims or kills before age 18. Child trafficking is a $150 billion industry. And just like in Collodi's time, most people don't care. We watch sanitized Disney movies and convince ourselves the problem's solved. That the padroni are gone, the children are safe. They're not. The land of toys still exists. It's called social media algorithms, designed to addict children. Fast fashion factories where 12-year-olds sew our clothes. Cobalt mines where 7-year-olds dig materials for our smartphones. The system hasn't changed. We've just gotten better at hiding it. Carlo Collodi tried to warn us. He wrote a horror story disguised as a children's tale, hoping someone would see the truth. But we turned it into a cartoon. We made Pinocchio cute, made him sing, made him safe, and we let the real children disappear. Pinocchio isn't about a puppet becoming a real boy. It's about the children who never got that chance. And until we stop pretending otherwise, the puppet in the corner will keep staring at us, reminding us of what we refuse to see. Thank you for facing the truth with us. Subscribe to Lore Chronicles for more dark origins they tried to hide. The real stories are always darker than the fairy tales. Just wait until you hear the next story we uncover.